Hello everyone, this is Jean Piero. This is video 01. It is a project of mine to write my memoirs up to this point. And I've reached out to around 60 people that know me. Some of them know me better than others, but at least they know who I am, and some of them have known me for years. Some of them here in America have known me since I was 14, and I've asked them questions, something they wish they knew about me that they don't. And this question is from Emily, and the question goes like this. I am curious how your transition was moving to the United States and going to public schools. Was it hard getting used to costumes or the culture? Um, the transition. I remember arriving not in North America, but in Los Angeles, California, on December 28th, 1990. We came to the US via Canada. We arrived in Canada and we were there for a couple of weeks, maybe a little less, somewhere around 2 weeks. We were in Canada and then we came across the border to the US, and then we took a plane from Montana to Los Angeles, and then we arrived on December 28th. Yes, there was an adjustment. There was a little bit of a culture shock, going from eating traditional Peruvian food based on rice, beans, chicken, meat, to trying peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That was interesting. Also having snacks like carrots, and drinking a lot of milk. Maybe it just had to do. That's what my cousins were eating at the time, and also processed cheese, the yellow cheese, that Kraft's cheese. We had a lot of sandwiches for snacks made out of white bread and Kraft's cheese. Sometimes we would snack on the cheese. That was new. Learning English was interesting. I remember one of the first movies that we were exposed to learn English was The Sound of Music, and that was interesting, and nice, but mostly interesting. So that was one of those adjustment moments. I was fascinated by a lot of things about the U.S. It was all new to me, and I'm sure it was to my siblings. I didn't speak any English, maybe a few words, a couple of colors, numbers 1 to 10, basic stuff that I was learning in school, in Peru, but nothing. I couldn't put a sentence together. I remember probably the one who had the most this, I don't want to say stewardship, but it was the responsibility of my older brother Giovanni, because well, he had learned or studied more English than us in school. So I remember him talking to the taxi driver, that we took a taxi in Canada, and just doing tiny little finding out questions, asking for directions, talking to the people at the hotel, talking to the people at the grocery store. Giovanni was the one he was our lead man, even though he was only 17, 18 at the time. Probably 18. Yeah, man. Now when I look at 18-year-old boys. They look so little and young. I'm 43, but yeah, it was Giovanni was the man, and he led us to different places until we made it to our family, who was waiting for us in California. There was a lot of hoops we had to jump through, and a lot of things we had to do to make it to Los Angeles. So yeah, we have a interesting story, and someday I will write about it. And we arrived in Whittier, California, and that became our home for many years. Um, One thing that helped us become a little more integrated into the society was that uh, well, I grew up in the Latter Day Saint Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints. Uh, I am not a practicing member of that church anymore, but the rest of my family on my mother's side are, or at least most of them are, and that gave us a strong foundation to feel that we belong to the community, and also uh, people that didn't know us immediately opened up to us and befriended us, even though we couldn't communicate with them. Uh, People were very kind, very nice, and we were always invited to different social events that were sponsored by the church. And every Sunday we had a place to be at for the church meetings and Sunday school. And on Mondays or throughout the week, there was different activities for the youth where we got together, and people my age, and we got to spend time with each other. And for the most part, I sit around and smile, and I've always had a decent smile, and I like to smile. I am very sensitive by nature, and people always warmed up to me, and they were very kind to me. And well, Latter Day Saint people, or as I grew up calling them, I think they've changed their name, or they've changed the way they want to be called. But for a lot of the world, is called or is known as the Mormon Church. And being around the Mormon community was very, very helpful, um, and very vital for us, at least for me, to feel that I belong to something. And yeah, that gave me a sense. That gave me an identity. I was Jean Piero, the Peruvian boy who wanted to be American, and who was a Mormon. And yeah, that was pretty special. That made it very, very easy, or easier to integrate. Um, it was a difficult transition, but I always got a strong push from my family, from my uncle, my aunt, Norma, my aunt Eloisa, to learn English. They always encourage us to have a little notebook with us, and a pen, so we can write new words. Even if we didn't understand what the words were, just write whatever we thought it was, and then we could look them up in the dictionary. And that helped me increase my vocabulary over time. Um, I wanted to be an American so bad. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to blend in, but I always knew that I was different. Even to this day, for a long time, I tried to work on my accent, get rid of my accent, but yeah, I never went away, and I tried. And now, when I speak Spanish, I still speak Spanish fluently. But when I travel to Peru and I speak Spanish over there, they always ask me where are you from? and I say, "Yeah, I'm from here, I'm Peruvian," and they usually correct me and they say, "No, no, no, no. Where did you grow up?" So apparently, I speak Spanish with an American accent, and when I speak English here in America, I speak I speak English with a Spanish accent. So everywhere I go, I have an accent, and I consider myself more American than Peruvian, and for a lot of time, I try to suppress my Peruvianness or not talk about it or pretend that those 14 years that I spent in Peru didn't mean much. But no, those are my roots. And it wasn't until, I don't know, probably 3 to 6 years ago I began to own it a little more. And yeah, my Peruvianness, it's there. Sometimes I have this longing to talk to Peruvians and to get to know my roots a little better because growing up I was an overprotected child. I was always very small and very skinny, very sickly, and my family protected me a lot. So I didn't have any street experience. I was at home, at school, or at church, but I didn't go out very much, and I was not allowed to stay at my friend's house so much, and so I was very naive in many ways, and I left the nest much later than I was supposed to. So there was a lot of things that I had to learn, painful lessons I had to learn in my 20s that I should have learned when I was much younger. What else? Public school. I went to the second semester of 8th grade. The name of the school was Granada Middle School. And it was good for the most part. Or, yeah, I don't think I ever had a struggle. The teachers were really nice. They understood my limitations because of the language, and I don't think they had the capacity to help a lot of Spanish-speaking kids. So even my English teacher, she had a translator, and to make me feel welcome, she would encourage me to write, even if I had to write in Spanish. And then she would ask her Spanish translator to translate for her, and then he would give me a good grade for effort. And yeah, I always wanted to participate, and I was always smiling, and I was not a troublemaker at the time. I don't think I've ever was a troublemaker, but yeah, that second semester of 8th grade was really nice. I think the only hiccup I had one time during my 8th grade semester was there was as a little teenage kid full of hormones. There was a girl that I liked, and there was a couple of boys who spoke Spanish, and I told them, "Hey, who's that girl? She's pretty." And then they went and they told her, and I don't know what they told her, but she was really upset at me because of whatever they said to her, and she came at me. I think she yelled at me, and that was my first experience missing the mark with an American girl, and but at least she talked to me. What else? Then after that, I went to La Serna High School, and then I remember for registration, I guess we were supposed to come there during the summer before school started to get our I forgot what you call it, schedule, course schedule, our classes, and our locker number and locker combination. And I remember I spoke to a counselor. We went by last names, and I talked to the counselor who took care of the people whose names started with the S, letter S for scatolon. And obviously, it was obvious that I didn't speak English, so she sent me to the Spanish counselor. I think his name was last name was Gandara or Gandara, and then they gave me a schedule full of ESL classes in English as a second language, and I only made it through 6 months in that in the ESL program. There was a lot of people there, mainly Spanish-speaking kids, but then there was also some girls from Russia and some kids from I don't know if it was China or Japan, and then some other Eastern European kids. And I told my family that I didn't feel comfortable there, or that I wasn't learning very much. And then they made an appointment with the school counselor, and they pushed a little, and they placed me in the regular English speaking program. And I think that forced me to learn English. And again, I think the teachers were super kind, and they always gave me a good grade for effort. I personally thought that I struggled a lot learning, especially with math. I was not very good at math. It took me, I don't even think I passed algebra when I was in high school. No, I didn't. I did not. They always gave me remedial classes, math A, math B, and I took an architectural drafting class, and that gave me enough credits to graduate and to get my high school diploma. Then I've taken algebra later on in a community college, and it was still tough, but I finally passed it. What else? So that was my transition. The costumes, and the culture. I wanted to be an American so bad that I never questioned anything. If they said eat peanut butter and jelly with a side of carrots, I would. If whatever they told me Americans behave like, I try my best to do that. And but of course, there was those 14 years deeply ingrained in me of having been raised in Peru, and like I said earlier, I tried to suppress that, but it was always there, and I'm glad it's there, because as I get older, I get nostalgic about Hispanic culture. In recent years, I've gotten more in tune with Spanish-speaking poets from Central America and from Mexico, Spanish music. It's something that I wanted to suppress for a long time, but in recent years it's come strong to find me. And also I am more comfortable with the fact that that I am Peruvian. I think once I got my green card, no, once I became an American citizen, I gave myself permission to say, I am here, I belong here, and part of who I am is part of where I came from, and I began to own it. But yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle to get to that point where I was able to get my green card and my American citizenship. And I think that's another reason why I felt that I had to join the U.S. Army. I served for 3 years to feel that I had the right to be here. So that's part of my my transition, I believe. And yeah, I was 32 when I joined the U.S. Army, and I served for 3 years. And once I got through that, now I'm 43. So once I was able to served in the army and go to Afghanistan, serve in combat, then I felt complete. I felt that I had earned the right to be an American, and that I belong here. And now I could speak freely about my past, my background, where I came from, and my past. Yeah, and that's part of my becoming an American. Yeah, I'm writing my memoirs up to this point, and this is why I find it useful that people ask me questions, so I can make my brain work in the direction of remembering my history. Thank you for the question, and if you have any more questions, I'll be happy to share more of my story. Eventually, hopefully I'll be able to turn these videos into a book and pass it on to my children, and when I have grandchildren, also my grandchildren's. So thanks again for the question, Emily. Have a great day. Bye-bye.